Are you very hungry though?
Do you not want to eat your shoe?
Friends are looking tasty though.
Surely they are edible.
No, 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 no!
Monster, monster, cooking the monster.
Cooking the Monster is proudly presented by Herbert, Matly, and Kistrix.
Monster, monster, cooking the monster tonight.
Good evening, travelers in the wild, and welcome back to another fine episode of Cooking the Monster, where we explore all things edible in the fantasy worlds. Tonight, we continue our journey through the player races and take a look at the humble, small, tiny, itty-bitty gnome.
They're natural pranksters, illusionists.
They are derived from gems. There were two variations in the story, and the first variation was that they just magically appeared under the earth, out of various gems, out of diamonds, emeralds, and rubies in different types relating to different stones. Some people say they just evolved, and in my opinion, I think that could have happened through a close relation to the Feywild, where these magical stones just magically gained life, and the unborn children of the gnomes were inside. And the other story is that it was the god of the gnomes,
Garl
Glitter Gold, who infused life into these gems and then told a joke to give them a sense of humor to their race. They are a small humanoid creature. I like to think of them as 1 to 2 feet, though it is stated in most common literature, well, in the core book for Dungeons and Dragons, that they are 2 to 3 feet, the same size as a halfling.
3 to 4 feet even.
3 to 4 feet. Jeez.
Yes. So a halfling, by the book, is 3 feet tall and weighs about 40 pounds. A gnome, by the book, is about 3 to 4 feet tall and weighs about 40 pounds. And pretty much every instance I've seen of a halfling next to a gnome has had the gnome
Considerably
lighter.
shorter and
Shorter.
lighter.
More to like the 3 feet and the halfling more towards the...
Yeah. Or,
So, I'm going to say for the purpose of this video that the gnome is 2 to 3 feet and the same weight because its bones are denser and heavier,
or magic.
and it is in fact got a lot of sinews. When you look at the physical makeup between a gnome and a halfling, a gnome is much more wiry and it has lots tighter muscles and it's much denser in construction, bigger hands, bigger feet, bigger heads. And I think of them a lot like a monkey in the way that they sort of, the flesh behaves texturally, but flavor-wise, what do you think, Kistrix?
I think that it's going to have a fairly bland flavour for gnome.
So earthy?
Just a little bit earthy, like or erring on the side of earthy. So if we were going to put it with anything, I think we're looking at some of like our tubers and our roots. So you can't go wrong with something like potatoes and sweet potato. Now I did see a mention that the gnome should be slow roasted over a fire. That was a great suggestion from somebody on the online
It's a good
space.
suggestion, and it would go well, particularly with like a nutmeg, or if you wanted to add something
Definitely.
sweet into it.
Yeah.
Ginger would be very nice with it.
Licorice is quite sweet as well.
Okay.
And that's another root too. And then if you want to go a little bit spicier, you can put
Fennel
chili.
even as well.
Fennel, yeah.
Yeah.
Have some fennel seeds.
Some fennel seeds and also some nutmeg, and sort of smooth it all in there with some oil if you want to go for like a sesame oil or something like that, just to sort of add a little bit of extra flavor without going too far to one side or the other. But I guess the main thing is it's going to be very hard to get your cuts of meat. So slow roasting really is the best way to do it as far as I can see, because that way you're going to be able to get all of the meat falling off. You can extract all of those small, fine bones. Though, at the same time, if you are feeding to larger creatures, you can prepare them in the same way that you would prepare a quail. Because the bones are so small and fine, it's actually possible for a larger creature without any issue to be able to consume those bones.
Yeah. And I think because of the smaller size as well, it's quite easy to get them over a fire, or even to bury them under the charcoals as well and infuse the herbs and vegetable flavours in there.
Or possibly just bake them straight into a pie.
Pie would work quite well.
And then you can do the detailing where their little heads and hands are like coming out the top
You'd
of
use
the pie.
fingers.
Carbonite.
or something,
Yeah.
or
That's the
something.
one, carbonite.
Yeah.
Carbonite gnome.
Yeah, love the carbonite gnome. It'd be a like a very fun holiday season treat as well, especially if you like caramelized halfling that you then sort of caked in caramel sauce
Yeah.
or baked into a brownie, something like that.
Yeah, so Kistrix, they're often described as twitchy and fast-moving, and so we're looking at a very high adrenaline, sort of fast-moving creature.
Yeah.
What would you do to sort of like get rid of that like bitter aftertaste?
Oh, again, I think coming back to something like the licorice as well. If you wanted to balance out the bitter, maybe we could be using some like fruits as well. Maybe using something like a pineapple there as well, because the enzymes might actually help to soften the meat a fair bit. Papaya is another good one for that. Kiwi fruit, they're all very good. So help with the texture of the meat, but also the balance the bitterness as well with the sweetness of the fruit.
Okay, and
Interesting.
they're often described as fey and having like illusionary power or being in some way infused in magic. Would that change the taste much, or would it?
I like to think that Fey magic, particularly with the light-hearted Fey, the very physical makeup of their being is infused with the kind of magic they live by, and gnomes are very light-hearted, they are very good-natured, and this is what I feel separates them from the flavor of a goblin that has a very similar physical makeup and a very similar high-strung life path. They're very high-strung. So I imagine that would lend them to some more exotic flavors, and I hate to contradict you in this, where you're like a bit more mundane, a bit more earthy, but I feel that even if it wasn't in their flesh, at least in their fat and some of the enzymes that you might be able to draw out of their brain juices from around their organs, would at least give you the basis to make some very unique sauces.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, there are different subtypes of gnomes, so it could very well be that the more sort of like the forest gnomes, the more sort of infused with illusionary magic, could have that magical thing, whereas the rock gnomes, who are more the artificers, the tinkerers, would have a more sort of earthy...
Potato people!
They're made of potatoes.
So, rock gnomes, you have with the potatoes, and perhaps you try the interesting more...
Or look, mix it up. I mean, if you can come across a few different varieties of gnome in a short period of time, or you're into farming.
Like a mixed entree?
Yeah, mixed entree, serving giants, that'd be a great mixed entree, especially if you want to, you could color code cakes for desserts.
Oh, yeah.
Call it Gnome Crunch or Gnome Surprise, and or a box of chocolates if you want to candy them up properly, if you're serving dragons or giants or any larger creature, to be honest. Even a sphinx might appreciate that.
Much like the sort of French bird meal that you have to hide your face under a towel to hide your shame from God, but you eat it in a single bite.
There's so many options there, and even though they are stringy, they are sinewy, they definitely have their issues. It's that joyous, happy-go-lucky, magical attitude that makes them, well, such good eating and such a delight, both in character and at the table. And we'd like to hear back from you guys. What do you think about gnomes? How would you cook them? How would you prepare them? What flavors would you add? And how would you combine them with other ingredients to create a truly unique eating experience? Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Cooking the Monster.
Monster, cooking the monster tonight.